Would you believe me if I told you that there exists a smart door that turns your sliding glass one into a safe and secure door for your pet that you can operate from your phone? Yep, that's a reality. Hey guys, and welcome to one more episode of Nation. For today's interview, we have Adam Smithline, co-founder and CEO at Wayzn, the company on a mission to create freedom for people and their pets. So welcome, Adam. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me. So my background is not in hardware. My background is in marketing and data science, and I've mostly worked for software companies. Wayzn is my first adventure in hardware. We got started with Wayzn kind of by accident. I was on a ski trip with my brother-in-law, and he had a kind of crazy idea because we'd spent quite a bit of money boarding our dogs so that we could leave town in a hurry to go do a day of skiing. And after a couple of beers, he was looking at the sliding door in the cabin, and he said, what if we could open the sliding doors like that we have like these back at our homes to let the dog out? We wouldn't have to board the dogs when we want to leave town just for like the day. So we started fooling around with the idea, and people liked the idea, and one thing led to another, and here we are.
Wow, that's a great story. I had no idea. The whole idea came out from that.
Yeah, the whole idea just came from an actual need. I think that's pretty common. You hear that a lot in business. And I always thought that people just say that, but it's true.
Okay, so this was 5 years ago, and you were with your brother-in-law, and then what happened?
We bought some off-the-shelf parts. He also has a background in software, so neither of us really knew what we were doing, but my son is a mechanical engineer, and I had done some little projects with him, like building electric skateboards. And so I just started tinkering, and I used hobby parts like Arduino and other off-the-shelf parts to build a prototype. It took a few months to have a good working prototype. I mean, really just a proof of concept, but it worked. We put it on our door. The dog let itself in and out with motion detection, and it seemed safe. And, you know, everyone that saw it really liked it. Our wives liked it. It just presented a nice alternative to the problem of having to put a hole in your wall to let the dog out, which that wasn't ever going to happen in my house. So this seemed like a viable alternative, and everyone that saw it liked it. Our friends said they would give us money and invest in it. And so we just decided to
Darn it. Yeah, totally. Wow, that's a great story. Thank you so much for sharing. And can you tell me a little bit about the technology and how does it actually work?
Sure. Wayzn has multiple microprocessors. It's got a worm drive linear actuator. It's got a heat sensor. It does current sensing. It's quite complex little robot. It uses AI to calibrate itself to your door after you install it. So it determines how big your door is, where the closed and open points are, how much current the motor draws throughout the travel of the rod, so that it can always detect if the motor is drawing more current than is expected at any point in the travel, which we interpret all this data in real time to know whether or not the door is doing what's expected, or perhaps it's run into an obstruction.
Really interesting. And I was looking through the website, and I have to tell you that I think it's really impressive because the whole setup, it takes like 5 minutes or so. So it looks super easy to install, isn't it?
Yeah, thanks. That's very nice to hear. That is the intent for sure.
Yeah.
So we designed some custom adapters for the product because the problem we face is that there's a lot of variability in sliding doors. So the more you start to look at sliding doors, the more you realize kind of almost no two are the same. So they come in different sizes, but they also have different profiles in the track. They could have ridges or valleys or extra parts. And so we designed adapters to be as flexible as possible to make installation really easy. So Wayzn actually installs with just really strong, removable, double-sided adhesive tape on both ends. And it's easy to remove, it's damage-free, but it's incredibly strong. You can hang from it from the roof. So it's perfectly capable of opening and closing the door, and easily removable if you decide you don't want to use it anymore.
Wow, that's really practical. And okay, so you guys are a hardware and software company at the end of the day. So what would you say has been the biggest challenge in each one of them?
From a hardware perspective, I think our biggest challenge has been variability in the components. So from little things like one batch of plastic may not exactly match the next batch of plastic in terms of color or consistency, rigidity, to issues like trying to get really consistent results from a piece of hardware, like, for example, an optical encoder, which is only precise to a specific degree. And it's also a physical piece of hardware. So it could shift or change behavior over time. So from a hardware perspective, dealing with these kinds of variability is challenging, but that really puts the pressure on the software side. So being able to develop software that's robust and behaves consistently over time, even though the hardware may have slight variations over time. Things like weather can affect the way the door works. Temperature can affect the way the hardware works. So trying to deal with those types of things, and also just the broad range of variability in terms of how two different doors may operate very differently in terms of the amount of effort that's required, or something as simple as a little pebble gets stuck in the track. So will the device continue to work? So I'd say in terms of difficulty, those are some of the more difficult problems that we face.
And I know that you also have like a smart delivery box. So what will you say makes Wayzn the best option in the market?
Well, that product is not in the marketplace yet. That's in R&D still. We have done quite a bit of work around adapting our existing technology and patents to other applications. So opening and closing windows, opening and closing package receptacles, that sort of thing. But currently, because we're a very small business and arguably undercapitalized, our core focus is on the door opener and a new accessory that we're about to start shipping for that product, which is a collar tag for your dog to wear.
I did see that on the website, and I think it's great. So you guys started 5 years ago, you survived the pandemic. Talking on the hardware perspective, what would you say was the biggest challenge? Talking about supply chain.
Yeah, COVID's been challenging. I literally have COVID right now. So you're doing a COVID interview.
Thank you, Adam, for being here today.
Yeah, I'm feeling a lot better, but we have struggled with the pandemic. In fact, we launched Wayzn publicly at CES in 2020 and came back from Las Vegas with COVID ourselves. And since then, we faced a number of challenges. The biggest one actually was probably difficulty raising capital, then supply chain. But on the supply chain front, we've had shortages in the ST32 microprocessor. We've had shortages in some of the other modules we're using for the pet tag. We've had all kinds of shipping delays and difficulty getting boats from port to port, even difficulty getting boats unloaded, getting materials from the port just an hour inland, you name it. So we've had to be really adaptable. Because we're a small company, we don't have massive resources at our disposal to handle supply chain disruption. And so we've had to be flexible. And in turn, we've had to ask our customers to be flexible. We've run out of inventory multiple times. We've had to take pre-orders, and we just communicated with customers and let them know. The good news is we have a very unique product, and the people that use it love it. So if it's the right fit for your household, it turns out most of those customers are willing to be flexible and kind of come along on this journey with us. And so they've been pretty forgiving. We're very grateful. We've been very fortunate that the product's been well received. And that's not to say we haven't had pre-orders get canceled. Of course we have. But at the end of the day, the vast majority of customers have found enough value in the product that they really love it. So they're willing to be flexible, and we're really grateful for that.
Wow, that's great to hear. And talking about the next steps of the company, what will you say they are?
We've spent the last few years trying to deal with supply chain issues, trying to get the pet tag released. We're now finally at the point where we can start to scale. So we are focused on moving manufacturing out of the United States, and we're looking at our options for that, but we've identified a good option in South America, and we're looking to build the footprint of the business organically. So we're strong believers in not growing too fast, but we're finally at a point where we can start to focus on growth, which is something we really haven't been able to do for the last few years.
Congratulations on that. Excited about the next steps.
Thank you.
And last but not least, Adam, do you have any advice for future entrepreneurs or founders or CEOs starting on this path?
I don't really know if I'm in a position to give advice. It's been a learning experience for us. We're really learning every day. And I guess if I had any advice, it would be surround yourself with smart people, surround yourself with good partners, surround yourself with good tools, because no matter how smart you are, hardware is a complicated business. And even if you're well capitalized, in fact, maybe even more so if you're well capitalized, you're going to face real challenges. So it's been more difficult than the other businesses I've been involved in. And I think we're only still here because we've had excellent partners, excellent advisors, and we've really listened. We've kind of been as we go, and we've made a lot of mistakes, but I think you can recover from them if, try not to move too fast and take good advice where you can get it.
Thank you so much for being here, Adam. Do you have any social media handles? Where can people find you or the company?
You can always find us through our website, Wayzn.com. You can also hit me at adam@wayzn.com if I can ever be of service.
Thank you. Perfect. And remember, guys, that you can also find more information, interesting articles, interesting interviews, just like this one with Adam, directly on our website, controlhub.com/wizard-nation. We would love to hear from you. Once again, Adam, thank you so much for being here, for being part of the podcast. And a special thanks for being here, especially today after COVID.
It was my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.